Hello everybody, welcome to the video course called Mastering IELTS Graph Descriptions, Model Answers. My name is Neil Bakiev and I'm your IELTS instructor. And today we'll be analyzing a line graph taken from Cambridge IELTS 9, page 101. Now let's look at these tasks in detail. The graph below gives information from a 2008 report about a consumption of energy in the USA since 1980 with projections until 2030. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Now here we have US energy consumption by fuel. We have a particular period from 1980 to 2030, and we have different kinds of energy sources such as petrol and oil, coal, natural gas, nuclear power, solar, wind power, and hydropower. And we have our measurement given in quadrillion units. Okay, and here we have the period, which is divided into two parts. The first one is the period from the past up to the present, and then we also have projections, meaning that we're trying to predict what will happen in the future. Now our job is to write our first paragraph, which is called the introduction paragraph. So the line graph, so remember we need to indicate the type of the graph that we are writing. So in this case it's a line graph, and therefore we need to write the line graph compares data on the changes in the amounts of energy consumed in the USA, right? We have US energy consumption. So consumption is a noun, but here I've used it as a verb. So of energy consumed in the USA and then measured in quadrillion units, right? Look at this, quadrillion units. And then we have QU, meaning that we are not going to write quadrillion units all the time throughout our graph description. We're going to use this abbreviation, which is QU, which stands for quadrillion units. Since 1980, with projected figures until 2030. Again, here we have the word projection, which is a noun, but here we use it as an adjective, with projected figures, meaning that we're trying to predict, we're trying to say what situation will be like in the future. So our job is to paraphrase the task prompt, indicating the country, the measurement, and the period. Next. The next paragraph is used for describing this line graph, generally focusing on general trends rather than focusing on specific data. So overall, while a significant amount of energy has been produced from petrol, oil, coal, and natural gas, far less energy has been derived from nuclear, solar, wind, and hydropower. Okay, so when you are trying to compare the highest figures and the lowest figures, you can use the word while, okay, to show a contrast between them. And then a significant amount of, and this whole phrase basically means much energy, but this sounds much better, it sounds more academic. So while a significant amount of energy has been produced, pay attention to the grammar tense that I have used. I've just used the present perfect, right? Because we're talking about the result, okay? The result that has happened by now. So has been produced from petrol and oil. Look at this carefully. We have petrol and oil, okay? And then we have coal and natural gas. We have coal, right? And we have natural gas. So we have combined all of these energy sources, okay? And why? Because they have significantly higher figures than the figures for the other kinds of energy sources. And then far less energy, in this case far, which basically means much less energy, has been derived. Derived means taken from nuclear, solar, wind, and hydropower. So here we have solar, wind, hydropower, okay, and nuclear. So all of them are in this category, and it's obvious that the figures were much lower. All right, let's move on. Okay, in this paragraph, we need to be very specific with our data. So more specifically, regarding petrol and oil. Okay, so we have petrol and oil, and the phrase regarding means speaking of. Now let's focus on. Okay, so regarding petrol and oil, the figures show an upward trend in terms of energy consumption, rising from 35. So we need to show this rise from 35 to 40 quadrillion units between 1980 and 2000. So we're focusing on this period and showing that there was an upward trend. Next, a further increase of 15 quadrillion units is predicted to occur over the next decade. So, okay, so if you look at this carefully, we have a further increase, right? We have a further increase. And reach just under 50 quadrillion units in 2030. So here we have 2030, and we see that there is an increase, and we need to indicate this. And when you are talking about a future prediction, try to use this phrase, is projected to, or you can also write is expected to, or is likely to. Okay, and instead of writing happen, it's better to write the word occur, and the phrase over in this case, which means during the next decade. Next, so our job is to focus on the trend with the highest figures and indicate the change. Also show the predicted figures. Next, by contrast. So we need to use the word by contrast when we want to show the opposite situation. So before we showed a trend with the highest figures. Now we're trying to show a trend with the lowest figures. Okay, so the energy levels derived from nuclear. So we have nuclear here, right? We can see this. Okay, and then solar, wind, and hydropower. Solar, wind, and hydropower, and all of them are here. Okay, had risen marginally by 2020. So here we have 2020. So rise, rose, risen. We need to use the past perfect here. Marginally. Marginally means a little, slightly. Okay, so remember when we use the preposition by, make sure to use the past perfect, had risen. The opposite would be had decreased. Okay, next, reaching under 6 quadrillion units. Okay, so our job is to combine several categories, right, and just to indicate only one figure, and we can say that all of them reach under 6 quadrillion units, because if you look at this carefully, the maximum would be 6, so all of them reached under 6. In this case, under means less than 6. Next, these figures, however, are expected to increase slightly by 1 quadrillion unit by the end of the period. Okay, so we can see that all of them will increase by 1. And here, with the exception of hydropower. Okay, so here we have hydropower. Okay, which has the color green, which is likely to remain at the same rate. Again, we're talking about our future prediction. Use the phrase is likely to, which basically means which will probably remain. And instead of writing stay, it's better to write the word remain at the same rate. In this case, rate means level, as it was in 1980. Okay, so if you look at this carefully, we have the same level, and we need to indicate this. So our job is to focus on the trends with the lowest figures, combining several categories. All right, now let's move on. Although the amount of energy generated from coal, now let's just look at this, coal, right, was lower than that. In this case, that means the amount of, because we must compare the amount of energy with the amount of energy of natural gas. Okay. Yeah, here we go. We have this one. So if you look at this carefully, we're trying to compare it. We say that the amount of energy generated from coal was lower than that of natural gas at 16 and 20 quadrillion units respectively. The former in this case means the first source of energy had surpassed means had become significantly higher the latter in this case means natural gas by 2015. The gap between both of these sources is predicted to expand by approximately 5 quadrillion units. So we can see that this trend reversed. Okay, so basically they reached the same level, and then this trend reversed, and we need to indicate this by approximately 5 quadrillion units at roughly 27 quadrillion units for coal and 25 quadrillion units for natural gas. Okay, so here we go. We have these numbers and we need to indicate them. So our job is to find two categories with which change their figures significantly at the end of the period. All right, and that's the end of this video lesson. I hope you have learned how to analyze and describe a complex line graph. So your job is not to describe each category individually. You need to put several categories together as one group and then say whether there was an upward trend or downward trend, and to explain all the possible changes here. Thank you very much for watching this video, and good luck with your IELTS examination.